When you make these kind of statements, postures and positions get hardened by other people to protect their own interests. What is economic will take on a religious, hue altogether. It's essentially an economic issue, but it will take on a religious tinge. Once it takes on a religious tinge, everything becomes uncontrollable.
Do you think that's a result of a lack of leadership? Do we have a global lack of leadership at the moment?
There is lack of leadership in a certain way, but at the same time, we need those kind of leaders only when we are in crisis. Rest of the time, we just need a CEO to manage the nation. Only when you have to lift a nation out of some pit, then you need that kind of an inspiring leader. Rest of the time, you don't really need that kind of leader. A manager is good enough. Actually, there is a survey in India which shows that in many of the states, when they had the weakest chief minister, that state does very well in economically, you know.
Why is that?
Because he doesn't know how to meddle with everything.
So do you find, I mean, you've raised the kind of, the previous Prime Minister, did you say the previous Prime Minister said… a former leader talking about, incentives going to certain communities. Is that an issue that India continues to face in its attempt to be politically correct?
See, somewhere we have to come to this. In a democratic country, numbers are important because elections are just a number game. Because numbers are important, people are trying to get those numbers whichever way possible. So, our election commission has put so many restrictions. If you say one religious word, immediately there is a censure, you can even go to prison by inciting something. So they don't do it in public meetings, they do it in those closed meetings, whatever. So one important thing is, if a democracy has to succeed, individuals should vote as individuals, not as family, not as community, not as caste, creed or religion. Only when you and me vote individually, what we want to do, whether we are right or wrong, it doesn't matter, we vote individually, only then democracy will succeed. Otherwise, you're practicing feudalism with a democratic garb. So once it becomes feudalistic, naturally everybody's position hardens.
What is the role of spirituality when it comes to business?
It's very important in the sense, first of all, let's understand what is spiritual process. Spiritual process does not mean looking up or looking down. It is not about believing something, it is not about going to a temple, church or mosque or whatever. Spirituality means this: when your experience of life transcends the limitations of your physical nature, then we say you're spiritual. When we say physical nature, what is physical about you was all gathered from outside, isn't it? The food that we've eaten, which is sitting here as a body, either we get it now or when we are buried one day, we get it that we are actually part of the soil. So what is soil is now sitting here and acting up like this just because it can prance around, it starts believing things. But beyond what we have gathered, there is something else which you can call as life, you can call it whatever you want, but you exist beyond your body parts. So what body parts we gathered is just earth, which we have to put back one day. Something beyond that is within us. If we come to experience that dimension, then we say, you're spiritual. Or if you're seeking to experience that dimension, then we say you're on a spiritual path. Now, if you touch that dimension, naturally the sense of boundary will go away within you because boundaries are of the physical nature. Boundaries is a must for physical nature. This is me, that is you physically. These boundaries are very essential and this is needed. That goes for individuals, that goes for communities, that goes for nations. We call this a nation because it has a border, isn't it? So physical spaces are always defined by boundaries. A dimension beyond physical, if you touch, there is no sense of boundary within you. It is naturally inclusive. If you bring people… Actually, when I was at WEF, I was asked, Sadhguru, if there's one thing we can do for you that will change this world, what is it? I said, I will name 25 people, give them to me for 5 days. I will change the world. In 2 to 3 years' time, there'll be a huge change in the world. Who are these 25 people? I named 25 heads of the major nations on the planet. Normally, I need 2.5 days to do this to people, but because they are politicians, I said 5 days.
You doubled the time.
Double the time, just to ensure. If… I want you to understand this, whether it's yourself or anybody who's leading a business or a nation, if you sit here and if you can experience all these people as you're experiencing the 5 fingers of your hand, after that, I don't have to tell you what you should do with them. Once you have experienced something as a part of yourself, then everything that you do will be an expression of that. So if you run businesses like this, if you run nations like this, it'll work. How is this possible? Very simple. We could do an experiment. If you do like this and hold it, you will see something starts happening between your 2 hands, you know. I'm sorry.
So what do you think ultimately then is missing from these 25 people who run the world? Why did you choose them?
Limited identification is the only problem. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Sadhguru has a slight cough and cold, so he's asked me to bear with him.
See, these people could have experienced when they're very joyful or loving. If you felt very, very exuberant within yourself, if you just take your hands and place it here, 6 to 8 inches away from you, right here you will feel sensations. If nothing like that happened, then we have to do something horrible. I'm sorry. You have heard this, somebody lost their leg or hand, though the physical leg was lost, the sensory leg was still there, they could still feel the sensations, it's called a phantom leg or a phantom hand. This is because sensory body has a presence of its own. Right now this water is here, this is definitely not you. But if you drink it, it becomes you, isn't it? What is it that you did? All you did was include this water into the boundaries of your sensation. I'm sorry. I'm not
Do you want to…
Nobody ever sees me unwell, but it
No, no.
happens. Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
See, now this water is not you, but if you drink it, it becomes you. All you have done is, what was outside the boundaries of your sensation, you included into the boundaries of your sensation. What you call as my body was all over the place. Today, because it's within the boundaries of your sensation, you experience it as myself, isn't it? Now I can teach you a method with which your sensory body can expand. Let's say your sensory body became as large as this hall. If you sit here, you'll experience everything here as a part of yourself because everything is within the boundaries of your sensation. This is what yoga means. Yoga means union. Yoga does not mean twisting and turning your body or standing on your head. Yoga means union. In your experience, everything became one, simply because your sensory body has been expanded. If your sensory body became as large as this world, you would experience everything as yourself. Sitting here for one moment, if you experience me as yourself, after that, do I have to teach you morality, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that? Would it be necessary for you?
So you're saying the problem is religion then?
No. The problem is limited identification. You are identified only with this. So this is naturally either an enemy or something to get something out of. It is a marketplace, other people have become our marketplace. If we saw them as human beings, if you experience them as human beings, we would see how to contribute to their lives. If you see them as marketplace, you will see how to exploit them. So if you exploit them, there will be resentment. There will be, we can't live without you, but if we get a chance, we would like to do something to you. This is how the world is going on. So if the top leadership in the world, within themselves, if they experience a certain sense of union with everything around them, the very way they function will change. Why I'm saying this is, see, this is for the first time. This is for the very first time in the history of humanity. Today, we have the necessary resource, capability, technology to address every human problem on the planet. You take what you want, nourishment, health, education, everything we can address. Only thing that's missing is, there is no inclusive consciousness. Even 50 years ago, we wouldn't be capable of, even if we intended, we could not do it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm fine. 50 years ago, even if we wanted to do it, we did not have the capacity. Today we have the capacity and we are not… if we don't do it, that I call it as a crime against humanity. If we are not capable of it, that's different. But we are capable of it and we did not do it, that's a crime, isn't it?
Do you think, though, that religion divides?
You want me to get killed? See, the moment you believe one thing, you must understand this. Why do you believe something? Do you believe you have two hands? Or do you know you have two hands?
I know.
You know you have two hands. So what would you believe? Something that you do not know, you believe, to pretend that you know. If human beings understand the immensity of not knowing, immensity of seeing, I do not know. If you see, I do not know, only then the possibility of knowing opens up in your life. But now what we have done to humanity is, whatever you do not know, you just believe it. So you believe one thing, I believe something else. Today we are nice to each other, but when my belief and your belief comes to a competition, then we will kill each other.
Do you think religious men, people in positions of power that others follow, exploit that?
I wouldn't say they exploit that. They are also victims because they also believe. First of all, belief means this: you don't have the courage to admit something that you do not know as I do not know. What is your problem? What I know, what I do not know, I do not know, what is the big deal about it? But that one thing humanity is not able to come to terms with is, they are not able to live with I do not know. But I do not know is a tremendous possibility. If you are in a state of I do not know, your intelligence is at its peak. The moment you think, I know, then stupid things start happening out of you. So we have gotten human societies into this, that everybody has to believe something. It's very important we bring up our children in such a way that they become sincere enough. What I know, what I do not know, I do not know. What's the problem with this? But then, there'll be no religion.
How would you feel about that?
Huh?
How would you feel about that?
People think if there is no organized religion, everybody will go haywire. I don't think so. I have deep and profound trust in humanity. If you stir up humanity in the world, you will see it'll go fine. It is not necessary because of fear of God you're doing the right things. You should do the right things because you experience life as certain kind of unity. If you pay enough attention around you, you can understand very clearly, you could not even exist here without the worms and the insects and the birds and the trees, you cannot